The Ink and Paint Club podcast is intended for mature audiences. I know we're usually talking about kids' cartoons and stuff, but there's going to be naughty language. Anyway, listener discretion is advised.
You're listening to the Ink and Paint Club podcast, a proud member of the Geekly Grind Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Ink and Paint Club podcast. My name is JD, and getting a little bit of a crossover here again. Jeanette and Gary are here with me.
Hello.
This is an anime podcast now.
If you want to hear more of just three of us, and if you have it and have any passing interest in Digimon, we reviewed all of Digimon Adventure 2020 and are currently in the process of reviewing Digimon Ghost Game as it comes out every week. So go ahead and check out Talking Mons if you haven't already. But we're not here to talk about Digimon this week. We're here to talk about other anime nonsense. We're going to be talking about a film that just came out here in America called Pompo the Cinephile. It was a movie that I did not know anything about up until about a day before it was screening here in America. And the art style looked just so charming. I'm like, well, I should go check this out. So basically, this movie came out sometime last year in Japan. I think like last June. I think it was originally supposed to come out in 2020, but it's saying that obviously because of COVID, everything got pushed back. But it is now out here in America. I think some theaters might still have it. I know for the theaters near my house, they had one night that was doing the subs, one night was doing the dubs. I went to go see the dub because I'm lazy. But yeah, I had a thoroughly enjoyable time with this. It is a charming little movie.
Yeah, I was really impressed, to be honest. I had a blast. I will say, considering what this movie covers, it's kind of funny that it got pushed back.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah, but before we really get into it, if you're not unfamiliar with the story, we will be getting into spoilers, but just to kind of give you to preface this. It's basically takes place in a fictional version of Hollywood called Nollywood, where everything is cat-themed for reasons.
I think they just wanted to avoid paying the Hollywood sign royalties.
Probably. I'm sure there's something involved into that.
Plus Japan, just make everything cats. There you go.
Yeah,
which is respectable.
Anyway, sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Anyway, the story centers around mostly a young film hopeful named Jean, who is basically a production assistant to this, I don't know how old she is, but can't be any older than 10. Movie producer named who goes by the name of Pompo, and she's a world-renowned movie producer, has a really good eye for good scripts, good actors, and can pretty much turn anything into a hit, which is ironic because she mostly produces really cheesy B movies.
She's like Michael Bay.
Listen, bro. I would watch those B movies. They look lit.
It's like Michael Bay if he actually made quality films.
Yes.
I love her full name. It's Joelle Davonovich Pomponette.
Yes.
Pomponette. But she just goes by Pompo. Yeah, so she is basically in charge of this, I assume, a smaller film studio, because it only seems like 12 people work there. Mm-hmm. If the movie they make inside the movie is any indication. But yeah, she takes this kid Jean under her wing, and he's has been a weird loner his entire life, and his only respite has been filmed. So he wants to be a director someday, even though he'll never admit it. She ropes in this hopeful actress who's really bad at acting named Natalie. And just through a silly series of events, Jean ends up being set in charge of Pompo's next movie to be a director, and Natalie's gonna be the female lead next to this really respected veteran actor that hasn't made a movie in 10 years. And it's just basically watching these characters interact and Jean really learning what it's like to make a film and like the struggles that come along with that. And there's a lot of like in meta jokes about like the film industry and editing techniques, and I don't know, it's just full of charming characters. It's just like a weird slice of life thing about making a small budget movie. Like for a movie that I knew literally nothing about other than I thought the art style looked good going in, I was very impressed with it.
Mm-hmm. And I liked a lot of the animation techniques they used in the movie as well. Like,
there's definitely a lot.
Yeah, it's very visually engaging.
Yeah, and we'll definitely talk about that. But what would you guys say you're like coming away from this? What were your initial impressions of the movie?
Jeanette, you go first.
Okay. I didn't agree with all the messaging of the movie, but I thought, man, the person who wrote the movie was very passionate about what they're talking about. And I just thought it was a fun movie. I thought it was really tight and well done. And I had a great time watching it.
Yeah, more or less same. It feels like a fantasy. Not in the magical sense. Well, I mean, there's some sort of magical realism when it comes to it, because this guy's first movie got funding cut, managed to have a miracle of a backup source of funding, and also winning the lots of awards and such. It's a fantasy, but it is the fantasy of Hollywood. It is something that I feel like that the Academy Award, like the actual Academy Award, would love if they actually takes animation seriously and watch this movie.
Which we all know they don't.
We all know they don't.
It's kind of what you wish Hollywood was like, and it's just kind of very wish fulfillment, but in a really satisfying way.
The movie basically has a spirit of like, it's people don't make movies for. I mean, yes, making a profit is awesome, but like making movies for the sake of doing it is kind of like what I took away as the spirit of this movie. Like, Gene just really is into movies, and he wants to be a good director, and he has like such an eye for like good shots and what can work in a movie. And it becomes like this collaborative process when they're like in the middle of shooting, that they kind of all just agree that like it doesn't matter if you're the director, you're the actor, you're one of the crew. Like, everyone's input is equally valid to like, okay, what can we all do to make this like better? So like the crew just starts like suggesting, like, oh, this would actually make this scene really cool if we did this and this, and the actors are throwing out suggestions, and Gene's like taking it all in consideration, like, yeah, okay, that actually would be really cool. And it's actually just really fun watching all of these like just people who are very passionate about making movies like come together to make this movie. And ultimately, the movie they're making does not matter at all. It's more about the process of it, about than like the movie they're making, because the movie they're making looks like cliche as shit. But just watching these characters interact with each other and like the struggles they go through to get this movie made, whether it's lack of funding or health issues, or like needing to go back, like having to beg to go back and do a reshoot scene. It's a nice cozy movie.
It is.
With some kind of like oddly intense scenes.
I will say one thing I liked is that a lot of the stuff that they talk about in the movie like actually applies to, and making the movie within the movie actually applies to the actual movie itself. Even with like the length of the movie, like the length of Pompo.
Oh yeah, I love that joke.
Okay, so yeah, there's a joke in the movie, or it's not so much a joke. It's just Pompo like explaining her preferences for movies. Is basically she's saying that no movie over 90 minutes can be any good, because you should be able to convey any story in that amount of time. In order to keep an audience attention. And I knew the second she said that, I'm like, okay, this movie's gonna hit 90 minutes exactly, and for as far as I could tell, it does.
I looked it up. I think it's not. I'm gonna double check right now, but I think it's 90 something minutes.
I think not including credits, the movie is 90 minutes.
It has. Yeah, it's exactly,
like,
90 minutes. It's exactly.
And that makes the final joke of the movie almost the best thing, because obviously we're getting into spoilers here, but I'm at one side annoyed with how they portrayed the Oscars because they portray it as a way that there's a host that is interviewing the recipients as they're getting their award. Mm-hmm. As if they don't have, like, an Oscar speech or anything.
Yeah.
So, like, the fucking host just, like, is up there when Gene wins his Best Director award, which, like, we're saying, it's a fantasy. There's no fucking way that would happen. Mm-hmm. Not saying it's impossible. It's just like no. That's no.
But
she asks him what's his favorite part of the movie, and he responds that it is exactly 90 minutes long, and it like cuts back to his project in Premiere, and it says 90 minutes exactly, and then the movie ends.
Yes.
Just cuts to black.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I thought that was a very, very well constructed and joke, and had a good payoff.
It did.
Yeah, I went watching with a friend, and since it's on a weeknight, she wanted to make sure the timing is good, and I told her the length of the movie when I was checking it out, and she said like, "Oh, is that short?"
Yeah.
Which I mean, it's an anime movie. I'm not surprised it's that short, but the fact that they made that a point.
Yeah.
Like, this movie is exactly 90 minutes long.
I mean, I was pretty excited when I saw it was only 90 minutes long, because I was like, heck yeah, I can watch this before work the next day. Because I went and saw the sub showing, because I didn't want to watch the dub, and all the sub showings were really late at night for some reason.
Yeah. Gary, what did you watch sub or dub for this?
I watched dub.
Okay.
It's just scheduling. It's not really because of preference. Scheduling just happened to fall on the dub night.
Yeah. I definitely made a preference to go watch the dub, which honestly the dub's not bad. It's actually very well done. Which I'm sure I've said on this show or any other show a million times that I'm not so bothered watching dubs nowadays because dubs are taken pretty seriously and like they're not the way they were when we were kids, where they didn't really care too much about it.
Dubs have gotten a lot better in general. I will say that.
I've seen a couple clips of the movie in Japanese since watching it, and the subtitles are almost word for word what the English dub was.
Yeah.
So
I'm just old school.
I will say the one time that the dub does not work is the opening musical number. Which the movie opens with like the Oscars, and obviously, you know, every year at the Oscars they have like an opening musical number, and the host lady from the end of the movie is like singing it, and it's almost like a literal translation of what the Japanese song is, and it is really oddly paced.
Nice.
It's not great, but everything after that is A+. So
glad to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. So. I looked up a little information on this property just because I like I said, I'd never heard of this before seeing like a Facebook trailer for it and like, oh, that looks cool. Oh, hey, it's showing tomorrow night. I'll go watch it. So apparently this is a comic that is on Pixiv, if you know what that is.
Yes.
It's not like in any official magazine. The guy just posted to Pixiv.
I think for a viewer, listener, that doesn't know what it is, think DeviantArt, but from Japan.
Yeah, more or less. And I think it's like almost in a way how we have Webtoon. I think it's kind of like that. At least I think like the version that he's posting on. Because I got the first volume of the manga, and I'm gonna be honest, the movie improves on it in almost every way. I'm like reading the first volume, and the art's not great. It definitely looks like someone who posts the DeviantArt. like he knows what he's doing, but obviously could use some touching up.
But how's the story when it compares to the movie?
As far as I've gotten, so I skipped ahead a little bit. The first volume of the manga ends after the shooting, and he's going into the editing process. So that's where the first manga ends. And there's apparently 3 volumes out. I don't think the third one's out here in America yet. But there is 3 volumes, and the manga is technically still going. So I'm wondering if there is story that wasn't in the movie that like is further along, like after they're done with the movie they're working on. So, and I'd be interested to see more of that, but I'll talk about that later. But yeah, the manga is very... I feel like the movie takes a little more time to get you into these characters and like with the story. The manga like really kind of rushes through all that. Like you kind of like meet Natalie, and then like on the next page, like, oh hey, you're hired in this movie, or you're gonna go live with this movie star or to learn acting. Like that shot, like that really nice shot where it's like that weird crossing of paths where Jean is on the bus and sees Natalie running down the street before he even knows her, and she like jumps in a puddle, and like Jean's like brain goes into like camera mode where he just starts like applying filters, and like he's like, okay, this, if I could do this, it would be like the perfect shot. That's not in the manga at all. I don't even think he gets on the bus. He just kind of gets to the studio. So the movie expands on a lot, at least from what I've seen, and I think it is better for it. And obviously the art style is way cleaned up, and because I think UFO Table did this movie, or Clap did it, which I think has people from UFO Table, if I remember right. Yeah. And apparently this has a spin-off manga as well that's still going, called Fran the Cinephile. I don't know what any of that's about, but it's there. And yeah, so, and 2 volumes of the manga are already over here. So it seems like it's a series they're really trying to get the takeoff, and I think it has some potential over here. I didn't see like any numbers about like how well this has done over here in America, but I think anime films have been doing a lot better over here, and they're like more willing to put them into theaters rather than just like the special art theaters, but as like regular theaters as well. Because like, man, we've gone to the movies a lot lately, and I swear they've had the Jujutsu Kaisen movie in there for like a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm. That one is really good too, just saying.
I've watched like 2 episodes of that show.
You don't need to watch the show to watch the movie. I didn't watch any of it, but this is not about that movie.
Yeah, I've heard it's a prequel, but yeah. So and I'm glad that anime films are getting a lot more play over here, and I'm glad that it's not just these like Demon Slayer and Jujutsu Kaisen and Dragon Ball and Hero Academia, like their movies getting played because they know that's an audience. It's like they kind of took a chance on this one and being like, okay, this is probably a property no one's ever heard of. We're gonna just try to put it over here, and I'm glad they did, because I probably would have never even heard of this movie had they not put it out here.
And I would absolutely love to see more of this, like see a continuation or even a series or another movie. Like, just I'd be down.
Yeah.
Once there's more manga, that is, or comic, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I think I might have said this to you guys the other day. I would not be at all surprised if this is ends up being treated as like a pilot episode. If they like make a series after this being like the continuing adventures of this movie studio. And I think I'd be okay with that. I think that'd be fun. I'd enjoy watching more of these characters.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I definitely thought the characters were a lot of fun, and I'd like to see more of them. Like, I just watched them do pretty much anything with the quality production and writing that the series had. Or not series, movie had.
Yeah, and I guess we could like jump on to like just the very interesting look of this movie. Because I think you alluded to it before, Jeanette, but yeah, there's a lot of like really cool effects to really emphasize some things in the movie. I like that anytime Gene is editing, he goes into like a weird other world full of film strips, and he just like does a weird Fantasia dance to like cut and edit film inside Adobe Premiere. Which it's funny watching him do that, because like, wow, that's like what I do every day.
Yeah, it's chop chop, chop chop.
Not to that extent, but
it feels like a magical girl sequence.
Almost, yeah.
You mean you don't have a whole chop chop editing alter ego, JD?
I'm about to say, I was watching him like, dude, editing could be fun, but not this fun. Maybe that's just me.
Well, he is editing more or less his own baby, instead of just like working for a client.
Right. Yeah. It does make a difference when it's something you're actually passionate about, not just something you're forced to work on. And a lot, and I can't exactly remember what the reason for this is, but I know there's like a lot of scene transitions where it's like they zoom out from the scene to show that it's like on a film strip, and then it like moves up or down the film strip a little bit and then zooms back into the scene. I thought that was a really kind of cool visual transition that they did.
I just thought the whole thing was gorgeous and very interesting to watch. Like, as you said, there's a lot of effects and such, and it's a real treat.
Yeah, and all the transition feels very smooth, even though sometimes you have the abrupt flashback, sometimes it's just moving location in general. There are a lot of time where the entire segment rewinds a certain amount of time and shift to a different perspective. Like, even though a lot of these are sudden and very fast, visually it still makes sense. It still connects with the story and the theme.
Jeremy Snow here, owner and editor-in-chief of The Geekly Grind. I'm interrupting your awesome, regularly scheduled programming to ensure that you know about our Geekly Grind podcast network, of which this show is a treasured member of. If you haven't had a chance to check out our site, you can do so at www.thegeeklygrind.com, and while you're there, check out the other members of our steadily growing podcast family, including the anime-centric Blake and Spencer Get Jumped, discovering new heroes and comic book keepers with Chris and Lance, exploring the vast universe of geekdom with Geeksploration, or of course appreciating animation's finer details with the Ink and Paint Club. Escape your weekly grind at The Geekly Grind.
One other thing that I really enjoyed, and I think it really kind of emphasized, what's the movie inside the movie, is that when they are showing what's being filmed, like when they're filming the movie they're making, and they show like what's in through the camera, the animation gets like almost eerily smooth at points, like almost rotoscoped in some shots, and I think it really kind of shows that, kind of proves that, like, it shows to emphasize, like, okay, this is a film they're shooting. It's not like what we're seeing as the outside for the story. It's like what they're seeing, what they're shooting. And I thought that, like, kind of really smoothing out and really adding a bit more to the animation for those scenes, I thought, like, really helped emphasize that.
I still love that shot where he just sees her stepping in the puddle, and it also just want to highlight that. That is, without a doubt, one of the best shots in the beginning of the film.
It's in the trailer. Look at it, because that kind of that shot alone frames his character. Like, it completely describes his mindset.
Yeah, where like it zooms into his eye, which then transforms into like a camera lens that goes inside his head to then see what he's looking at, and then zooms back out. And it's even funnier because that scene is to show like Gene setting up a perfect shot, and for that to be almost like one of the highlight shots of the movie, I think is really effective.
Oh, I love how he's so focused on that he missed the bus stop that he's supposed to get off of.
Yeah. He like goes an extra stop and has like run all the way back, and then Pompo gets mad at him for being late.
I love the line.
Which ultimately doesn't matter, but
yeah, I love the line work of the characters in this movie too. Like, they're so fluid, almost kind of Looney Toony, but in a really good way.
And there's a color shift in the line work too. It's not solid black. It takes into account the character's color and the background and the lighting as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my wife brought this up. I'm not sure if I totally agree, but do you guys think Pompo stands out design wise from the other characters?
A little,
like to a distracting degree, at least.
The only reason that I would think she'd be distracting is because she's got that lolly little girl thing going on, and that just is very uncomfortable, especially for how mature and complicated of a, like, not mature, but how, like, mentor role she is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the one thing I didn't really jibe with. And I just thought it was just like an anime thing, and even though she looks 10, I assume she's older. It's just...
Oh no, I think she is a child.
Are you serious? Oh
yeah,
wow.
I swear, like I said, I'm pretty sure she's like no more than 10.
I think that breaks some labor laws.
I don't know. Well, yeah, like her grandfather like decided to retire, and so basically she inherited all of his like contacts and his studio, and but because she has such an unnatural talent for seeing quality that they just let her take over.
That's kind of amazing.
And yeah, it is weird seeing this child school this 25-year-old on film techniques and like what goes into making a good movie.
I don't know because I haven't read the manga. I don't know if the manga state this or not, but I just feel like she is designed this way as a standout mascot. But otherwise, in universe, she's like older. At least that's what I'm getting. Because her art style, it's so different from all the other characters, even the newbie actress. And it just feels like that this is more or less on purpose. Like, for a while, when I saw a few of the trailers, I kind of assumed that she wasn't actually real. As in, like, she is part of the imagination, like this film theory of sort that Jean thought of. Like, because I've only seen one or two of the trailers, and they're all Jean focused, so I didn't know anything about the Pompo character.
Right. Yeah, I definitely see that, and especially because she is so oddly different from every other character. Like, Jean is kind of like that in-between where he is, like, really, like, wide, kind of cartoonish eyes, but that's mostly because of, like, the bags under his eyes. But everyone else is, like, pretty normal for the most part, but then, like, Pompo is, like, this really cartoony, looking character who's very colorful. So, yeah, it's, I think they make her fit within the world. I just think it is a little jarring when she stands next to other characters. And the manga is exactly the same way. She looks more or less like that compared to everybody else. So
yeah,
and I think it's probably just to make her stand out.
I think Pompo. I kind of take back what I said about being complicated. She's more of a plot device than an actual character.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and Gary, I think you brought this up the other day, is Pompo is not really she is the title character, she's not the main character.
Yeah, I have a problem with the title, Pompo, the cinephile, because it makes her, I mean, obviously she's the cinephile, no, not the cinephile, she's a cinephile. That's how she managed to be a producer in Hollywood. But the title make it sounds like she is the main character, and it's Jean who's the main character. It would make more sense if the title's Pompo and the cinephile.
Yeah, definitely, because like there's rarely instance in this movie you're not with Jean, but there are bits of the movie where Pompo just disappears.
Yeah,
she's off doing it. She's like they're off in Sweden or something filming, and she's like, okay, I gotta go back to America and do some shit. I'm gonna just leave you here and do your thing. And then she just leaves for like 10 minutes.
And then another part, she's like, oh, I'm in Australia, and I can't help you with anything. Make sure you finish editing the movie.
Right. Which I know there are some directors that edit their own movies, but that's more of a like just because they want control over that kind of stuff. But I don't know how common of a thing it is, but basically it's like almost a given with Pompo Studios. She's like, yeah, I pretty much have all my directors edit their own movies if they're able to. But the fact that she's like, okay, we finished this movie. Jean, you have like 3 weeks to edit this movie down.
And it's like any wonder it isn't done.
Yeah, he like misses the deadline, and like even after they've missed the deadline, he like has to go to Pompo. I'm like, okay, look, what we've got, it's not working because it's missing one scene. So basically it's like to grovel to her to be like, okay, could we please get these people back so we can just like film this one scene that'll like really clinch this together. And it really kind of takes a lot of twisting of her arm to let him do it. But I think ultimately like she knows it'll be for the betterment because she like trusts Jean. Because it's like part of that, like she has her like a talent for recognizing quality. So she like knows Jean knows better. Like knows this is for the better of the movie.
And this is her movie, by the way. I don't think we mentioned that she wrote it.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that's why I thought it was funny is that he's like saying, "I need to film this scene that's not in the script," and she gets almost like borderline offended by the fact it's like, "Oh, so you need to make this script better by filming a scene that I didn't write," even though he has her write the scene that he wants.
And one thing about why he keeps having issue finishing editing is that he keeps like not cutting enough of the movies because he wants to. Of course, Pompa wants to keep everything under 90 minutes. He just can't do it. There's like every time he finish a cut, it's like 2 hours long. Or when it reached the 90s mark, the lead actors haven't even been introduced yet.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, we've been 90 minutes, and we haven't even got to the crucial part where he goes to Sweden and meets the other main character. Mm-hmm. So I think when he cuts it down before he finally gets it, I think he said the cut is like 3 hours long.
That's what was the Marvel movie? Infinity Stone yet?
Well, one of the Infinity
Endgame.
War or Endgame, they're both like uber long.
I mean, the new Batman is 3 hours long.
Yeah, I think more superhero movies need this whole let's stick to 90 minutes thing. Just saying.
I'm fine with 2 hours. I think 2.5 is starting to push it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, for no real reason, it's a character that almost comes out of nowhere, is this weird guy that Gene knew in high school that, like, kinda bullied him, kinda, sorta, not really, that one time, that shows in, like, a flashback for him that shows up, like, towards the end of the movie.
He was technically seen fairly early on as in a flashback.
You see him, and he's, like, not a character of note. Like, you wouldn't, like, think, okay, that guy is something important. He's just, like, they kind of, like, pan to him for a second, and I'm like, okay, well, that was weird. And then they don't mention it for, like, an hour.
And it's kind of weird how they reintroduced him, because he sat behind Gene on the airplane to Switzerland. Yeah. And they kind of run into each other. And it's just odd because it's like, why are we focusing on this random guy who's a banker?
And his Xanax.
It's just funny because he's like, oh, hey, Gene, you remember me? We went to high school together. He's like, kind of. Yeah. And then he goes on like this really weird diatribe about how he's disappointed with his life. And I was like, wow, guy, way to be a bummer.
I'm sure this is what Gene wanted to reconnect with you about.
Yeah. And then, he almost becomes like the linchpin of like how their movie gets made.
Oh, yeah. After, because how they need to reshoot, funding got cut from sponsors and such. This banker guy managed to have this like live stream, like in secret board meeting, trying to convince all the older people. Like he's like just out of internship. He's like newly full hire, trying to convince them to finish funding the movie.
Which you want to talk about a fantasy.
Yeah.
This kid like goes to like the board of directors to his banking company and like sabotages them by like live streaming their meeting to the world, like to a Kickstarter they said they made to get the film funded. And they just basically force their hand in saying that, like, you know, banks are about letting people follow their dreams, and I believe in this kid, so you should give him money so he can finish his film. And I'm like, this is the biggest crock of bullshit.
I know, that was the weakest part of the movie for me, not gonna
banks
lie.
don't give a shit about you.
Excuse me.
No.
I don't mind it. It's
like I think it is fully in tone with the movie.
It is fully
I just
in
think
tone
in a
with the
realistic in a realism sense it is complete nonsense.
Because there's a lot of movies about Hollywood, but not a lot that's this fantastically optimistic, where it just take the magic of it, like it just soak up the magic and the thrill of everything.
Yeah, and honestly, in this day and age, I could use that kind of naive optimism.
Like, I'd rather watch this fantastical, optimistic film about making a movie than watch a down-to-earth, dour film right now.
Yeah.
Right. No, it was definitely a good change of pace, and I'm glad that it, like, kind of just came at a good time, where I think all of us just need, like, a nice, feel-good kind of, like, you know what? We do get to follow our dreams and make art and, like, do the things that we want to do, even though, like, that's not all that realistic most of the time.
Yeah.
But no, it was just nice.
Yeah, although the movie does touch on, and this was the one part that I disagreed vehemently with the movie about, which is you better be willing to sacrifice everything to make your dreams come true. But if you do, you can do it, which I think is a very Japanese thing.
Yeah.
Yes. So this movie tries to bill itself like, oh, this is in America. There's a lot of Japaneseisms in this.
Way too much bowing.
The bowing, some of the city streets, like I especially during the construction scene, I thought like, okay, this looks very Japanese. Where Natalie's directing traffic because that's like her side job. But yeah, this mentality that like your health is not worth getting the work done, because basically Gene is like stayed up for like a week straight trying to edit this movie and basically just working himself to death. So the fact that he basically collapses and has to go to the hospital, and
he freaking ripped the IV drip out of out of him and crawl back to the editing room.
Yeah, so, and he is applauded for that.
Bruh, amnesia kills people, or however you say it.
Yeah,
what?
No, the movie tries to praise him for like, okay, yeah, no, he is in desperate need of medical attention, but damn it, he is just so passionate to get this movie done that he doesn't care what it does to him. He's gonna get it done one way or another, and he ends up being completely fine. See, kids, you can work yourself to death. It's fine.
But I think there is a difference here between, because there are a lot of media in Japan that kind of do criticize the grinding, the work grind, but here is a self-imposed grind rather than grinding for a boss. Because if you look at something like Agretzko or anything about Salaryman, it's always this depressing grind that gets you nowhere. But here, it's this your self-motivated grind. It's not for anybody else. It's for yourself. So at least that is a different kind of pace. Because it would be a completely different movie that I probably wouldn't like at all if it was grinding on set where you're working the crew to death. That would be a completely different movie.
I agree to you to a point.
I don't support the message, but it's a appreciative. Appreciate this different type of storytelling about grinding.
I don't agree with the movie's message, but I think it fits with Gene's character.
It does.
If that makes sense.
Yes.
Like it totally seems like a thing he'd do, even though I don't think the movie should be showing that he does that, because then it kind of like says to everyone watching it, like, no, you should totally suffer for your art at the expense of your health.
It does
which
a lot
don't do that.
Although suffering for art is kind of a theme of the movie, like there's a part Pompeo talks about where she's like, "Yeah, I chose you because I show that you're dead inside. If you're a happy person, you can't be creative."
Happiness. What did she say? Like, happiness doesn't like. Basically, happy people can't be creative because happiness leads to complacency and it doesn't make them think.
Yeah, as I said, this guy, like, I don't agree with his worldview, but he sure doubles down on it.
He sure does.
The writer of this.
Oh, man. But, no, just overall, this movie was a nice surprise. I walked away from it really enjoying it, and, like, obviously I went out the next day and bought the first volume of the manga because I wanted to check that out and see how it differed. And you know, if by some chance that we see more of this, whether it's another movie or an anime based off of it, I mean, I'm up for seeing more of these characters because I think they're just a fun group to be around and get to know. So
I feel very much that this was a movie that you'd watch in Film 101 class, and it'd probably be one of the better movies you'd watch in Film 101 class. And I will watch this again at some point. I really liked it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely going to get a manga too, since it's this short.
Yeah, and it's not a long investment to watch this movie if you haven't and you've gotten this far. But yeah, it's definitely a movie I think even non-anime people I think could like, because it's not overtly anime-esque. It's like It is anime, but it is very much about an optimistic view of the film industry.
Yeah.
And maybe it's naive to think that optimistically about an industry, and that is nothing like what the movie portrays it as, but damn it if it's not charming.
Yeah, I feel like if you love Hollywood, and if you like La La Land, or even, I feel like if you like Quentin Tarantino, you would like this movie, because he loves like movies in general, and this you can see that in a really, like, if Quentin Tarantino was an anime character, he would be very much like Pombo.
Yeah.
I will say I will take this movie over La La Land any day.
La La Land gets depressing.
Yes. This movie is like a joy, even in the depressing parts.
Right. So yeah, it's a good time all around. I think we all highly recommend it. And I don't know if it's still in theaters, but I'm sure it's on Blu-ray soon. Or I'm sure it'll be on some streaming service, hopefully. So, highly recommend checking it out if you haven't already. Is there anything either of you want to mention before we go?
Nope.
Well, there's one thing. If it qualifies for the Oscar, I hope that they would apply this to the foreign film category, where it would be more noticeable compared to the animation category.
So, this past year, they did that. Because there was an animated documentary this past year, which I still have not watched, that was nominated for Best Animated and Best Foreign Film. So that's not out of the realm of possibility. I seriously doubt it would go into like the Best Foreign Film category, but I could see this being in the animated film category, but maybe it depends on what comes out this year.
Yeah, that's true.
But, yeah. Who knows? Well, we'll see. The Oscars are a year away. They just happened.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like a month ago. Anyway, but everybody, thank you for listening to this. I definitely hope that if you didn't check out Pompo already, that you give it a shot, because it is just a wholesome, just very cozy movie to watch. It'll make you feel good. So,
yeah.
And both of you guys, thank you for joining me here. I always appreciate talking with you, and I'm sure we'll talk again here soon about Digimon. So.
Yes.
And
maybe in the next 2 days.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe.
And we're about to be at the halfway point of the movie.
Woo.
Ooh.
We'll get there. Just play this episode twice and you'll get there. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. Stay safe out there. We'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. You can find all the links to our social media pages in the episode description. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and join our Discord. You can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. The Ink and Paint Club is happy to be part of the Geekly Grind podcast network. We'll see you next time.